So like I said earlier, all cities have their own version of the South Bronx. And it is our dirty energy economy that's subsidized by taking advantage of all the problems that social justice organizations like mine actually try to address. It's a profit that's based in inequality, manifested in regional sacrifice zones. Those same regional sacrifice zones are domestic point sources for the greenhouse gases that everybody says they're trying to curb right now. And what I want to do is actually show you where we can start. And this is the reason why. A 2006 Columbia University study reported that proximity to fossil fuel emissions causes learning disabilities in young children. So, I think statistically, we all know now that poor kids who do not so great in school are more likely to go to jail than on to good jobs and to higher education. So if this little kid, statistically, is among half of our country's urban youth that don't graduate from high school, and the manufacturing job that might have once been given to him, has gone overseas to places where coal-burning power plants, are built at a rate of 2 per week at this point. It's a pretty expensive game that we're playing to both our environment and also, to the guy on the block who often would have been able to depend on some of these jobs, the aspiring middle class, which we know is going away. But if we know that poverty and pollution feed our jails and promote strife in our communities, what can we do about it? If inequality is what makes prisons and garbage profitable, how are we going to make equality profitable instead? I represent the business of equality, narrowing the gap between rich and poor, and protecting the dignity of all people. And I know that dignity is not so easy to define, but I think everyone knows when it's been violated. So let's just make sure that we're on the same exact page when it comes to green, as in green-collar jobs. So you got green-collar. It was funny because they were mentioned all over the place in the Democratic debate in South Carolina a couple weeks ago, completely gone from the last one, and hopefully we'll get it back in there pretty soon. But let's just define a couple things about green. So you've got green as in the metaphorical green like CFLs and double pane windows, photovoltaic cells, etc. And there's a literal green like trees and riverbanks, estuaries, green roofs, hosts of low-impact developments that aim to let vegetative surfaces do their magic with just a little bit of help from us. And then there's also the green or sustainable in the sense that there's this regenerative quality and not just this one-way extraction of either resources or dollars with very little returning. And when I talk about green in this context, I'm talking about all those things and the economy that's attached to it, like jobs and new businesses and lives transformed. So how do we keep dollars in our local economies and guide investments to places we know where they're going to have the most impact? So cities often end up paying dearly for law enforcement, pretrial incarceration, education, social services, public health care costs, and those all, of course, go back to the taxpayer. Places with more green space have less runoff, period. The places that look like the one on the lower right, however, are the ones with the least amount of green space, and they're also the areas with the most crime and more prison recidivism. And there's a connection. Those areas are also the same ones with the lowest amount of parks per people, the highest asthma rates, the highest high school dropout rates, the lowest investment rates, highest poverty rates, people with very little hope. Again, all coming at a public cost, all of those things. That 55% runoff statistic could very well be applied to the people that live in communities that kind of are represented by that picture, as it does to stormwater. And additionally, you've got another issue with all of that, the public health impacts. In the South Bronx, our asthma rate is 1 in 4 kids has it. It's just like almost as natural as breathing, unfortunately. And we also see so much obesity in our community. Actually, it's not uncommon to find a 3-year-old with type 3 diabetes. And that, of course, obesity adds more to every other health problem you could possibly have. I mean, again, just think of the costs associated with all that. And what we're doing is making a connection between environmental remediation and poverty alleviation in ways that improve an entire city, region, neighborhood, et cetera. And Sustainable South Bronx is an amazing research and development laboratory in its own right, where we can see these things playing out, and it all starts with my puppy. She, actually, when we were fighting against this huge waste facility that was coming into my neighborhood about 10 years ago, literally, and I kept getting these notices from a USDA Forest Service grant that was saying, look, let's do some restoration projects along the Bronx River. And I was like, that's great, but we got lots of problems in our community. We can't even get to the river. I know it's there, but I can't find it. So my dog took me walking one day into what I thought was just another illegal garbage dump in the neighborhood. Turns out that it was a dump, but it dead-ended at the Bronx River. And I was like, cool beans, that's kind of hot. And after many, many community cleanups and leveraging that $10,000 grant that we got from the USDA, we were actually leverage it more than, I don't know how many times over, into this $3 million park that you're looking at right now. And this was back in 2006. And it's become such an important part of the local community. And I loved it so much, I actually got married there. And my dog is my lovely little flower girl. And, but in addition to it being such a great place, not just to get married, it also helped the community really think about what else we can do in terms of viewing ourselves as another place. And so I actually wrote a $1.25 million federal transportation grant that actually provided for the basis of designing an 11-mile greenway network. So on-street dedicated bike paths as well as waterfront esplanades. And it's a really exciting thing because what happened there is it's not... Sorry about that. This is the street that leads down to that park I showed you earlier, and this is what's going to look like a little bit later. But this is not all just about that it's a cute little amenity in a community. In cities as diverse as Bogota and Copenhagen, they're part of an economic transformation as well as transportation and water management plan for all of these things. And local jobs also come with these designs too. We also run a project called BEST, which stands for Bronx Environmental Stewardship Training, and it's an environmental restoration job training program that gives our students skills in green-collar fields, managing our urban forests, to safely cleaning up contaminated land, to green roof installation, and soon we're going to be working on training folks to do building retrofits as well as energy audits as well. And it's an amazing program because I got to tell you, I've watched single moms on welfare who've never had a job come alive to the world around them because they've actually not only are in a position to take better care of their families, but they also know their efforts are actually helping the environment and the world around them as well. So we're really excited about that. And another project that just came through, and actually since we're at a technology conference, this kind of makes more sense. This makes a lot of sense too. But a Fab Lab, which stands for Fabrication Laboratory, it's an MIT created project that helps communities cross the digital divide and become creators and inventors in their own future. And what it does is it links personal computers with specific software and also rapid prototyping machines such as laser cutters and milling machines so that you can pretty much create almost anything. In Ghana, where folks had no hope of ever being on the grid in certain villages, they actually created solar-powered collectors so that you can actually power a light at night. This is the difference between a kid learning how to read or not. In northern Norway, farmers put, tracking devices on their reindeer. So it's really individualized what you can do, or you can use it for much bigger things. Fab Fellows is a program that we're starting here that folks from New York City's do-it-yourself community and also the make community are getting a chance to use our equipment, and then, but for free, and in return, teach the community members some of the skills that they've learned around rapid prototyping. And we also are working on green roofs. We started our own green roof installation company so that we could practice exactly what we preach by promoting green enterprise and creating local jobs. But green roofs on a massive scale, they reduce urban heat island, mitigate the amount of stormwater going into our water treatment plants, which together add up to less energy consumption, less brain-damaging pollution, and more family stability green-collar jobs. But conversely, when you think about it, in many cities, billions are being spent on long-term water and sewage control plants. These single-use, really ugly facilities require loads of electricity to operate, produce very few local jobs, and have no other environmental benefits. And this represents a one-way flow of dollars out of local economies, but the locally built and maintained horticultural infrastructure like green roofs circulates dollars in local economies, improves health, property values, and pride. It's the kind of multiplier effect that cities need to see happening in underemployed areas first.